Alright, so today I'm going to be going over how I made $2,400 on this one trade right here. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about my model and the way I trade. Essentially, I look for a liquidity sweep, which is meaning we put in a high and sweep that high, or we put in a low, sweep that low. Confident draw basically just means that I want to be sure of the direction of the trade that I take, and I want to be confident in the direction that price wants to move in. The third rule is a change in the state of direction. Essentially, this means after we sweep out a high or low, these set of candles to the upside or to the downside before the sweep have to get closed through by another candle. So, and I'll show an example of that in a second here. And then the last thing is just once we get that change in the state of direction, I'll either enter on that or I'll wait for a retest up into a fair value gap, which could be like here, and then I'll go short or I'll go long. So that's kind of my model in general, how I trade. And so yeah, let's get into price action for the day. Let me get rid of all this. We can keep the highs and lows. We can keep this high. There we go. But essentially, what I do when I come to the market each day is I look at the higher time frames and I kind of look at what price is and where price could go. So if we go back here, you can see that we ended up sweeping this high in pre-market, right? And I didn't know where price wanted to go. If it wanted to go lower, we keep sweeping out these highs, these highs, these highs. And so you keep dropping time frames until you can kind of get a better picture of what price wants to do. So the other thing I forgot to mention in the rules that I follow in my model and specifically is I can look for a sweep of liquidity or an SMT. And what an SMT is it's a diversion of assets. So that would be one asset taking a high and one asset not taking the high. So for example, NQ and ES are related, so the NASDAQ and the S&P. But for Forex, it's EURUSD and GBP USD. So for example, if Euro took the high but GU didn't, GU would be more bearish. And it's the same exact thing for the other side, the other way around. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So if we go to the hourly, we can see that there's this bullish gap here, right? Sorry, I need to turn that on. Essentially, there's a bullish gap here that price is respecting. So I want to see if price wants to keep respecting it and go and sweep this high one more time, or if we want to come down, sweep out this low, or maybe go to this low. There's a 4-hour bullish gap right here that price may come down, sweep, tap into, and then go higher. It all just depends. You don't really know what price wants to do. You kind of have to just react to what it's showing you. So if we drop to the 5, you can see that before open, we opened this 5-minute bullish fair value gap, and price is holding this gap pretty well. So if we want to see a continuation higher to take these highs, we want to see this continue to hold. Otherwise, price might come down, sweep at this low, that's a different story. But so price is holding this high, and then the other thing to account for is, let's see what GU is looking like. So if we go to GU and we go to today, you can see that around this time when Euro was in the middle of the range, GU was trending towards this low. So in other words, preparing for an SMT. So now we're holding this gap, and you can see that at the point where GU takes this low out, if we fast forward here, you can see that right here is where GU takes the low. It's the same on both screens. Now, typically I would enter on something like this, in a sense that we swept the low, we formed an SMT, but there's no low that got swept. So now after we put this low in, I want to see if price wants to come back down, sweep this out, so that I can take along on a sweep with an SMT. So you can see that this ends up coming down and sweeping out the low, right? GU starts trending up. So now GU is starting to displace higher. There, the move is done, but Euro is still coming down. So you can see that Euro swept this low, GU swept that low. So this whole move becomes a bullish SMT divergence for Euro. So you can see that once we displace past this, this becomes your sweep, your SMT, and your change in the stated direction. So immediately I'm like, okay, I'm in. On this close, keep my stop the same. It's always 5 pips, and I target this high. And you can see that price kind of just keeps going. I think my fill was about right here. I got about 2.48R. I think this was my exact fill. And you can see that price just basically runs all the way to buy side liquidity. And so what I was saying earlier about my entries, you could enter and wait on one of these fair value gaps that opens. But depending on the entry, depending on the size of the candle, the amount of displacement, sometimes I will enter on strictly the change in the state direction. And that's what I did here. So yeah, basically, we have the internal sweep into the 5-minute gap with the bullish SMT. And you can see that price basically just ran straight to buy side liquidity, or in other words, this would be the high of day. So yeah, that was my trade for the day. Made again about 2,400. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want more trade reviews, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. But yeah, pretty simple today, pretty easy price action. We did chop for a little bit, which was a little bit concerning for a while, because obviously the more chop you have, the less probable the market is to do what you want it to do. And that's a big thing in trading, is probability, and the probability of you being successful. So but yeah, pretty good day today, and thank you guys for watching.